Hi, I'm Lily Head and welcome to another of our Dental Business Transaction podcasts. All our podcasts are available on our website and can be downloaded through Apple, Spotify, Podbean and also Google Podcasts. And there are some video versions of interviews on our YouTube channel, so please do subscribe and follow us. Now today I have great pleasure in introducing somebody that I've had the pleasure of working with for many years, Simon Hocken of Now Breathe. Simon has been 20 years a dentist, in fact, and is also a formally trained mentor in business coaching. In his career previously as well, Simon has been a published author. He wrote a book called Moonwalking for Dentists, and he's also had time as a BBC radio presenter discussing dental matters. So Simon, good morning and welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks Lily, and thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. How's life treating you right now?
Well, strange times, obviously, but we've got plenty of clients who are taking steps to make sure their practices are safe and profitable during the pandemic, and we're pretty busy, busier than I thought we'd be. So we're working obviously remotely. Unfortunately, it's always nice to go and visit clients, but I spend a lot of time staring at a screen. But apart from that, we're great and healthy and well, and homeschooling our kids like everybody else. So we're all looking forward to a holiday, Lily.
Yes, I'll amen to that one. Perhaps we can start a little bit, Simon, by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself and what kind of services you offer.
I suppose it's important for the listeners to know that I'm also a dentist as well as a business coach. And that gives me the advantage of being able to speak the language of dentistry and also to understand the stresses and the strains of being both a practice owner and a clinician. And I set up 3 squat practices in the 1980s and 1990s and then sold them in the 2000s, unfortunately not through you, Lily. And in those days, dental practice goodwill was much smaller than it is now, so slightly regret not hanging on to them for a bit longer. But anyway, I trained as a coach. I did a master's degree in coaching. Mm-hmm. And since then I've worked with over 1,000 dentists, which seems an extraordinary number and tells you just how old I am now. And there's very little I haven't seen in terms of dentistry. I've seen the very best, and I hope I've seen the very worst as well. I certainly don't want to see any more terrible practices, but there are a few about, as you and I know, and there are some very, very good practices about. And as for the sort of services we offer, well, I suppose we've gone through lots of phases in our business where we've been a one-stop shop, where we've offered marketing and sales training and reception and all that kind of thing. And these days we're deliberately a smaller business to make our lives simpler and to give us some time off. And what we mostly do is to work one-to-one with principals to help them have a strategic plan for their business and then to help them implement the plan. And quite often these days we help people on an exit strategy so that they're on the path towards selling their practices and selling them for the best possible value. So that's pretty much where we are at the moment. We tend not to, we do the odd squat practice. We did a couple last year, which was interesting, to help practitioners get started from nothing. That's always an exciting adventure to be part of. We have a large network of people that we work with, which we're very protective of. I'm a bit cynical at my old age about businesses in dentistry, particularly those that claim to be specialist businesses, and there are so many businesses that promise things to dentists and are just not very effective. So we manage to push our clients towards the right help when they need it. So we've stopped being a one-stop shop these days, and we rely on some very good people that we work with.
Yes, well, I know I can obviously see that firsthand because some of the clients of yours we've helped over the years, we've seen the substantial increase on their turnover and their profitability, having worked with you for many years and in many cases. So what would you say are the most effective tactics to grow a dental practice? You know, I mean, how big can a practice get? What insight can you give us on that?
Well, it's a great question. The answer to how big is probably much bigger than anybody imagines. To give you a quick example, we worked with a practice not that long ago that was bought by a very entrepreneurial guy. And when he bought it, it was grossing about £400,000. And we worked with him for just over 3 years. And by the time he was ready to sell it, 3 or 4 years down the track, the practice was turning over 2.4 million. And he sold it for more than that. So the key tactic for him in growing his practice was to open it 7 days a week. It was a city centre based practice, and it was very central in the city, and it had great location and lots of visibility, and there was a demand. He was the only practice in the city that was open 7 days a week. So let me just give you some tactics that we would use with a lot of practices. The first thing to think about, the thing that most dentists want to do first is to get new patients, and they love getting new patients, and we call it being better in the courtship than the marriage. And they've often got loads and loads of patients, and you walk into a practice and they're everywhere. They're in the files and they're stuffed in the cracks in the walls, and you open the door and there's a cupboard full of patients. And they've given up on them. And so the first thing we do is to say, let's just get hold of all those patients you've already got before you start getting new ones. Let's find out who you've got and reactivate the ones you haven't seen for a while. And most importantly, we help them increase the value of their patients so that the patients are likely to spend more every time they come to the practice. And I'll give you a quick example. I spoke to a dentist in the Midlands a few days ago, and he had a 3-surgery practice grossing £370,000 with 4,000 patients. And if you quickly do the maths, you'll see that each patient is worth £92.50 per year. If he were to increase the value of his patients and have them spend £130 a year rather than £92.50, his gross would go to £520,000. So he'd grow his practice by £150,000, or just under 50%, simply by selling the patients more services.
Absolutely.
So working with your existing patient base is the first step. And then clearly, once you've got that working well, the next step is to sort out your marketing and your sales. And a lot of practices are conscious of the need to go marketing, and they build themselves websites, and they're all over social media. But in my experience, very few practices are any good at sales. And so they get the patients arrive at the front door, and they're willing, and they have a need and they have outcomes that they want, and the practices have no idea what to do with them. And they have no idea how to communicate with them, or how to follow them up, or how to even price what it is that the patients want. So although there's lots of companies that are good at dental marketing, but there's very, very few practices that address the need to make sales within a practice. So that's a great place to look if you want to grow a practice. And I suppose the third one would be to move patients to your associates. In many practices, the dentist the owner is the highest grossing dentist in the practice. And whenever I see that, I know we've got a problem, because that means the dentist is hanging on to all the patients, hanging on to all the work, working the longest hours, taking the least amount of holiday, and is also very hard to replace. And so one of the things we get our clients to do is to fall in love with the idea of associates, to look after them, treat them very well, and move lots and lots of patients over to the associates. And I always say to our dentists, it's a little bit like feeding your children. If you're sitting down round the table with your children, you need to feed them first. You need to feed your associates first. Better you have a gappy diary than your associates have a gappy diary. because principals know how to build a diary, and associates very often don't know how to build a diary. So keep the associates busy, keep them really busy, feed them first, and if you have gaps in your diary as a principal, then you can fill those in all the ways you've managed to do over the many years you've been working as a principal. So those are our 3 top tactics, Lily. Increase the value of existing patients, sort out your marketing and your sales, and move continuing care patients or regular patients to your associates.
I totally agree, and especially the last point you made, Simon, is very relevant in our world, because obviously one of the things we do when we do our professional valuations for our clients, and we recommend they do just that, is they start to spread out the income load across associates, hygienists, therapists. Because when valuing a business ready in preparation for sale, obviously any incoming buyer is going to be looking at the risk value when that principal leaves. So it's a good time to start pushing the work out generally, because otherwise, as you say, it becomes all about them. And once they're gone, obviously the profits are going to drop. So that's very, very sage advice. Now let's talk about quality of life. How do you own and grow a practice and still have a life?
I meet a lot of dentists who have very little life outside of their practices, and I feel a bit sorry for them, really. And one of the questions I often ask them is, what have they given up since they've been a dental practice principal? And the answer is often they've given up a lot. They've given up their hobbies and their pastimes and their passions and their sport. And the first thing I do is to say, look, those are the things that are going to keep you energized and keep you well. And so I get them back into some of the things that they've let go of. And in order to do that, of course, they've got to have people in the practice they can delegate things to. Mm-hmm. And a lot of principals think that it's a good idea to save money by not having a decent practice manager, not having a decent bookkeeper, not having a decent marketing person or sales trainer, and they try and save their money. And one of the things I say to them is, if you're going to buy something, does it cost, or does it support your practice? And lots of principals are great at buying bits of technology and bits of equipment, and it costs them, but sometimes they sit in the cupboard and it doesn't pay. So often, if you're willing to pay for a proper practice manager, and if you're willing to pay for lots of help and delegate and give yourself some time off to go and enjoy your lives, the practice grows when you're not there as well as when you are there. So you need to be able to delegate and not hang on to everything. I still find dentists doing their bookkeeping on a Saturday morning sat at the kitchen table, which is extraordinary, really. Yeah. And they need to be very organised, and they need to be a great role model for the practice as well, so that they're happy to delegate. Secondly, I get them to reduce the amount of clinical work that they do. There's not a lot of point in being a dental practice owner and being the hardest working clinician in the practice. There's that old phrase about having a dog and barking yourself, isn't there? You might as well. Yeah, you might. If you're the principal, you don't have to be the guy or the woman that's working hardest. That's one of the pleasures of being a principal, is that you can have other people working for you. So I think principals who are serious about growing their businesses and leading their businesses, they shouldn't be working clinically more than 3 or 3.5 days a week. It doesn't mean they can go home on Wednesday afternoon. It means that once they've finished working clinically, they've got time to run their businesses, and they've got time to lead their businesses and meet with their teams, and sit and ponder and think about how they're going to grow their businesses, and make those phone calls and send those emails and watch those videos and whatever else that they need to do in order to grow the business. And I suppose lastly, I'd have them have something in their life other than dentistry. Dentists can get a bit boring. We just say it quietly so that they don't hear us, but they can be a bit dull because they've given up on so much. Yeah. And I'd encourage them to have passions and interests and things they want to do outside of dentistry, so as when they go to work, they're refreshed and they're focused and they're happy and they're ready to commit to their dental practice. So it's all about balance, Lily, isn't it? You and I know that about balance in the work that we do.
Remind me again the book you recommended that I read.
Yes, it's Younger Next Year is a great book by Chris Crowley for people who are coming towards the end of their dental practice careers and want to create a life when they finish being a dentist and maintain their fitness and maintain their health and their happiness, and to have a great third age of their lives. You know, that it's the idea that once you stop working, there's still a third of your life left and you want to be enjoying it for as long as possible. So a lot of our clients go down that path. I suppose the other, can I just throw in a quick, let me throw a quick one in. Don't be an old dentist. That's the other thing, you know. If you're in your 50s, you should be thinking about stopping. You shouldn't, nobody wants to be an old dentist, you know. It's a difficult job to do when you're older. You know, your back starts to feel uncomfortable, your shoulders start to ache, you can't see as well as you could when you were younger. You get tired, you get stressed. You know, make your money while you're younger and then stop. You know, stop in your 50s.
Great advice. So, throw this one at you. What are the top 3 habits then of a successful practice owner?
Well, the best ones always have a plan. You know, there are so many practices I walk into and I say to the team, so what's the plan for this year? And they look at me like I've just come from the moon. Or I say to the principal, you know, so what is it you want to achieve in 2021? And they go, just, and it's as if they're just surviving. They're just going from one week to the next, 1 month to the next, 1 year to the next. And so successful practice owners, they have a plan and they're implementing the plan and they have a forecast, financial forecast, a growth forecast, and they're using their forecast to set themselves targets and they're monitoring their success. So they have some sort of roadmap that they're following so that they're getting from A to B, and they know where B is as well. So I always look for a plan. If they haven't got a plan, that's one of the things I want to help them do. Secondly, they have plenty of time off. Successful practice owners take a lot of time off, and I'm talking 8 to 10 weeks a year. So I have some lovely clients up in Harrogate, 2 partners in their early 50s in a lovely practice, and each of them takes a month off in the summer. One takes August off and the other takes September off. And that's a great thing to do as a dentist. If you take 4 weeks off, you come back and it's like a new business. You're absolutely refreshed and you've cleared all the rubbish out of your head and you're ready to go. So take lots of time off. You know, if you're the highest earning person in the practice, it's really hard to take lots of time off because the practice takes such a hit when you're not there. So that's another good reason for having associates, and particularly high grossing associates. So that's the third thing, really. Don't be the most important dentist in the practice. And one of the tactics I encourage my clinicians to use is to hire dentists who are better than they are. Now that's quite controversial because every principal thinks they're a great dentist. But I say, go out and find people that are better than you are, and then you don't have to do everything. And once they get into the habit of that and go out and find great dentists, the pressure comes off them because they don't have to be the best person at doing restorative dentistry or periodontal treatment or whatever. They can be the best practice owner in the business. They can be the best leader, but they don't have to be the best clinician. So shall I just summarize that? They've got a plan, they take plenty of time off, and they're not the highest fee earner in the practice. And those are the successful practice owners. In fact, some practice owners I work with don't do any clinical dentistry at all. They've retired from clinical dentistry, but they're still owning a practice and loving it.
Very inspirational words, Simon, and I think people listening to this, it's going to certainly give food for thought to a lot of people, and probably give them some hope, actually, because we certainly see many clients that fit the profile that you've been talking about. They're working so hard, they take no time to work on their business. They're so busy working in the business, and it's very easy to fall into that trap, I know. And you're just like a hamster in a wheel. You're going round and round, and you need to come out and give yourself time, like a clarity break, to look at what's going on.
I think it's driven by fear, Lily. I think that a lot of practice owners are quite anxious about their practices, and they think it's all going to fall over, and they don't stop being the hamster on the wheel, because they're scared that if they did, everything would fall apart. And that's where we often have to rescue them and say it's not about just spinning the wheel. Otherwise, they don't live very long, do they?
No, that's something that often one sees as well, which is a real tragedy, isn't it? You work hard all your life, and your health gives up, or even more bleaker outcomes.
Yes.
When people reach out to you, Simon, what's the sort of initial sort of introductory service that you offer somebody? So hopefully, as a back of this chat today, you're going to be getting some calls from clients. How does it work?
Well, there's no substitute for a good old chat with a client. And of course, we usually do this on Zoom or by phone now. And the last thing I want to talk about is coaching. What I tend to talk about is with somebody who's interested in what we do is what objectives they have or what issues they have, and I try and help them solve a few things whilst we're talking together. Yeah. And by doing that, they can discover whether I'm the sort of person that they want to work with, whether they like. I'm quite a direct and which some people find difficult. Quite a direct sort of guy, and I don't mince my words. I suppose because I've been doing it for so long now, I can see the issues really quickly and help people. I know what solutions will work pretty fast. So we have a good old chat, 3/4 of an hour or an hour, and then I say to them, go off and have a think about it, and if you think we might be the right coaching organisation for you, then we'll spend a day together and have a good old look at your practice and meet your team and look at your competitors. And usually the first task, Lily, is to build a plan for them. So we have a chat first, and if they like us, we usually spend a day together, and the outcome of that day generally is to build a plan to take them forwards and move them towards wherever it is they want to go. And then sometimes that's enough, but often they want some help putting the plan into place, and we spend time helping them implement the plan.
Yeah. That's very good advice, because I think, as you know, in our business, we have business coaching on a regular basis, and people need somebody else to point them the way sometimes. You think you can fall into the trap very easily of thinking you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, but you're so immersed in your actual business and day-to-day activity. And I would imagine, well, I know for fact, clients of yours that we've helped in the past, they really value your time and your I suppose the support that you give them emotionally, as well as the sort of financial overview and help you give them. It's having you on side is like a great crutch for people to know that they're not alone, and that is a huge benefit, I think, to the morale and the well-being of many, many dentists.
Well, I hope so, and yes, and they know they can call us and talk to us at any time, and a lot of them over the years have become friends and may not be clients anymore, may have sold their practices even, but we still talk and we still meet up and we still have a beer together, and
that's great.
It's a small world, Lily, and we love the clients we work with, and we get to know them very well, and it's not always about the business, is it? It's the thing about a dentist is that their whole life is in their practice, and so you can't separate their work from the rest of their life. So we get to know them awfully well, which is important really, because you're coaching the person as well as their business. So it's important that we all get on well.
That's good. Now, what's the best way for somebody to get hold of you, Simon?
Well, inevitably we're online, Lily, so you'll find a website called nowbreathe.co.uk, or you can email me at simon@nowbreathe.co.uk, but we're pretty easy to find. And just give me a call, and I unlike most people these days, I usually answer the phone. Or send me an email and we'll arrange to have a chat.
That's great, lovely. Simon, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much. And I've really enjoyed our chat today because some of the insights you've given me, they ring so true, not only in ourselves in a business, but so many of our clients. And so hopefully this will inspire many dentists listening. Don't forget, of course, you can listen to any of our dental business transaction podcasts through our website on lilyhead.co.uk. We can listen to them through Apple, Spotify, Podbean, and also on our YouTube channel for video accompaniments. If anybody would like any help at all to discuss buying, selling a dental practice, business coaching, anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we can be reached very simply at dentalbrokers@lilyhead.co.uk. Thank you very much for listening, and Simon, I hope to talk to you again very soon.
Thank you very much, Lily. It's been an absolute pleasure. Bye.